Okay. So let me start with apartments.
Sure.
So I am still getting a bad rap for approving a bunch of apartments for Eagle. And it's been said in Eagle by some people that Eagle's an exclusive community and you have to earn the right here to live here. And I feel like Eagle is a community that anyone should, if they can afford to buy a house or move into an apartment, should be able to live there. So the big development down by Home Depot, the apartment building, that development was approved under Mayor Jim Reynolds' tenure. The Clarion is the apartment complex that I took so much heat on. That's on the corner of Tudor and Highway 44. And that was initially approved in 2004, 2005 under Nancy Merrill's mayoralship, and Jason Pierce was actually on planning and zoning then. That was when Eagle started to grow, and Eagle didn't extend beyond Tudor Road. So in order to get M3 development in, Eagle started annexing property on the west side of Tudor Road, and it went all the way down to Highway 44 and included the property where the Clarion apartments are built. They gave landowners, the Hormachia property, a lot of landowners in that area, unlimited development agreements, and some of those development agreements even told how many houses they could build in the future. Like the feedlot, the Hormachia property, were told they could build 1,800 homes on that property. So those development agreements are illegal now because we changed an ordinance to say it has to have a time limit. So even the M3 property that they did all of this to annex had a 30-year time frame to be able to be developed. So those Clarion apartments, a multiple family or condos or apartments were approved for that back then. Then as you went forward, I think it was a Canadian company actually bought that property, came in with a development agreement, and they wanted to build condos or apartments, and then that was approved by the city council. I think I was on the council then. Then that company sold or went bankrupt or something to the current company who bought the property. And they came in with a new development agreement for apartments. Well, these two housing developments next to it had been built in the meantime. And the owners of those housing developments had even come in and testified in support of apartments on that corner. So you fast forward, all of those groups went bankrupt and were resold, and the houses were built before the apartments were built. So when the new apartment developers came in, they had a larger, totally different plan than had been approved before. But what they were asking for was still legal. It fit within the agreement, planning and zoning agreements. So the people next door started complaining, and to make a long story short, we asked those two groups to work together, and they worked together and remedied some of their complaints. But people refer to those apartments as the barracks, like army barracks. And if you look at those apartments, the way they're situated, and really take a good look at them, we made a lot of decisions during that time so that those homeowners next door wouldn't be encroached upon too much. We put parking and a lot of things between the houses and the apartment buildings. But if you really look at them, those apartments don't look over those houses. They look opposite ways. There are no patios on those apartments where people put their bicycles and their cooking grills and hang clothes off of to dry. All of those are common areas down below inside the apartments. People in Eagle during that time who were so upset said, we don't need apartment buildings here. The local merchants were saying, we can't keep employees because it's too hard to drive to Eagle to work. And these were restaurant entry-level kind of jobs. So we worked really hard at trying to make that apartment building softer, friendlier for people and for the neighbors next door. And as soon as those were done, they were full, and they've been full ever since. So we needed those buildings, and they're built on Highway 44, exactly where the comp plan says they should be built. They're not into a normal residential neighborhood. They happen to border one neighborhood and the river and a highway. So those are very appropriate. Now, the only apartment complex that was approved when I was mayor that was totally on my watch was the apartment complex that is at the corner of Edgewood and Old State Street, across from where Buster's used to be, a restaurant. And it is family owned. It's not totally built yet. They've really been slow about building it, but it's built out of those styrofoam blocks and concrete. So it's really an efficient apartment building. And I think when they're finally done, people will be really happy. But if you talk to people, I remember knocking on doors during my last campaign. People said, "We're not going to vote for you because you built all of these apartments." Well, it's not always what you think it is. So my opponents keyed on that and ran with it and really got a lot of baggage out of it. So it's, politics can get really dirty. And what I tried to do during that campaign is that there was so much negativity. Someone filed a FBI complaint against me saying I was taking bribes. Someone said that the landing that we bought was done illegally and there was a kickback there. We filed some lawsuits against Two Rivers and some others, and my opponents, campaign workers and people said they were frivolous lawsuits and the city should drop them. We won every one of them. Even one of them went to the Supreme Court, ruled in the city's favor, and the FBI complaint was nothing. The FBI never even interviewed me, and unfortunately, all of this bad press gets out there, but they never print the other side of the story. Right. So all of those things didn't work out, but. I mean, it did work out in the sense that they certainly got me derailed, but none of those things were true, and none of those things were proven or actually happened. So during that campaign, I kept thinking, I'm going to take the high road because people will see through this, but it didn't work. We had several thousand new voters in that election, and many of those new voters, like yourself, came from California and Washington and other states because they thought what was going on in Idaho would be better for their particular mindset. And those people heard one story. They didn't hear my story. I didn't realize that they were meeting with all these homeowners associations, and we have one of those recorded where they were just telling stories that were not true. But that's dirty politics.